Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, coming to you live from our studio here at Adisawe in Accra. I am Martin Asiedu Date, sitting in for your regular host Alfred Ocansey. Coming up this evening, the New Patriotic Party has described as politically motivated and intimidation and harassment of its members after operatives of the national security stormed the residence of the Ashanti regional chairman of the party, Bernard Antwi Boasiako, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi. And we also know about the arrest of another NPP activist in Accra, Alfred Kumi. We'll be trying to give you the specific details of this particular development in a jiffy. And also to come, Supreme Court has released its full reasoning for dismissing the injunction application that was filed by Old Tafo Member of Parliament seeking to halt the removal process of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo. It's a full package. We would hope that you stay with us for the next hour and a half. Details in a jiffy. Before we delve into it though, Anita Agbota has details and summaries of our stories. Hello, Anita.
Hi, Martin.
Let's get into it.
Right. In tonight's summary, Ghana's newly established gold board says it is targeting up to $12 billion annually in gold revenue starting next year as it moves to double small-scale gold production and formalize artisanal mining operations across the country. The National Investigations Bureau has withdrawn its personnel from the residence of Bernard Antwi Boasiako, also known as Chairman Wontumi, after an attempted arrest on Friday triggered the standoff between security operatives and some supporters of the opposition New Patriotic Party (NPP) in Kumasi. The Ghana Health Service has announced a rise in Mpox cases, bringing the total number recorded in the country to 8. The development has prompted renewed public health concerns about potential local transmission. The Deputy Director of the Surveillance at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Dennis Odailaye, disclosed the figures in an interview with Channel 1 television. He noted that the cases are currently concentrated in the Greater Accra and Western regions, with 4 cases reported in each area. The Central Regional Police Command has arrested a suspect in connection with the murder of a senior lecturer from the University of Education, Winneba, whose body was discovered buried near his residence at Eswatiri in the Central Region. In a statement released by the police on May 22, 2025, the suspect, identified as Joshua Kariata, was apprehended after officers visited the lecturer's home following a missing persons report filed by a colleague on 21st May 2025. The colleagues had alerted police after repeated attempts to reach the lecturer proved unsuccessful. That'll be all for tonight, Martin. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Anita Agbota, with the summaries of our big stories we have for you this evening, and we'll be also happy to hear from you. Let your thoughts on the many stories we have for you tonight start flowing in, and we'll be happy to share it with the rest of the world. We're also streaming on our Facebook page. Be part of the show. Let's delve into the specific details now. The New Patriotic Party, which is Ghana's largest opposition party, has condemned what it describes as politically motivated intimidation and harassment of its members by government through alleged misuse of national security operatives. Armed operatives of the national security earlier today stormed the residence of Ashanti regional chairman of the NPP, Bernard Antwi Boasiako, also known as Chairman Wontumi, to effect a search warrant. The warrant, 3FM understands, authorizes the operatives to conduct a search of Wontumi's residence. However, following an alarm by Wontumi, his supporters besieged the residence and led to a standoff, which later caused the security personnel to abandon the operation. Let's listen to Chairman Wontumi, who's been speaking on the development from earlier today.
Minya Ghana need you. Because they said the one we never be a president in T. Minya Ghana need you. Ghana for Musorio. Ghana for Musorio. And before you know Musorio. And before you know Musorio. I am Munti and I'm a Hama MC. Be vice president da. Me Madam Board Suda. Me my DCO da. Me my minister da. I chairman in the media. And I want to be campaigning mammy. I'm not my campaign, my party, and I'm here, Juma. 2013, we are about the boom, Juma. Bubaye, my topping my human, my count to pa, be did was one. Me, my count to club, be did you what to know. So the Chia me must school fees a club by a ding. What I say, most of them will start to my count to so, and you know, Nasabi, me, sick up by sick up bane of the family.
And that's the voice of the NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman. Many of you will know him as Chairman Wontumi. So basically what he's saying is the recent development in his house is as a result of they going into opposition. And unfortunately, because they are in opposition, the current administration is trying to intimidate them. And he's currently, not financially stable and unable to even pay the school fees of his wards. So why would they want to harass and intimidate him? He goes on to also talk about the fact that he has not been a CEO before. He wasn't on any government board. He hasn't been chairman of any committee. He is only chairman of a party and campaigned to get the party into power. So why these tactics by the current government all through the security operatives? He has just been lamenting following this morning's attempt to search his house, not necessarily to even arrest him. So we'll get into some specifics when we speak to our correspondent shortly. William Evans Inkum has joined us. But before we speak to Evans, let's also listen to the lawyer for Chairman Wontumi, who has also condemned the approach that was used by the security operatives.
I asked from the leader of the team, and he told me that they've been asked to bring him to Accra, and we were able to resolve the issue. So later on in the following week, we will make sure that he responds to their invitation.
Do we know why they are inviting him?
We are not aware of that. We are not aware of the reason. They never told us. You know, when a constabulary duty is to be done, the policeman's lot is not the best. You are asked to bring the person. That is what they were told.
Not too long ago, the issue of Akonta mining came up, and we know a couple of people around him were invited. Do we know whether it has to do with that?
It is a sin for a lawyer to conjecture. A lawyer goes by the actual facts. I cannot conjecture that, or I cannot speculate that it was because of ABCD that he was being invited. But if it was, which I deny, if it was in relation to a Akonta mining issue, then the mode of arrest is bad.
And that's the lawyer for Bernard Antwi Boasiako in the person of Alfred. I beg your pardon. That is the lawyer for called Kwame Adom Apia. He is lawyer for Chairman Wontumi and has been condemning the operations that took place earlier today at Chairman Wontumi's house. So it is not just in the Ashanti region that the security operatives attempted to search the house of Chairman Wontumi. Here in the Greater Accra region, another attempt by security operatives to invite or probably pick up a gentleman who has also been in the eye of the storm got public attention. Earlier, there was also an arrest of the NPP member known as Alfred Kumi, who's at the center of the petition calling for the dissolution of the committee inquiring into the 3 petitions that were presented to the president seeking to remove Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo. It is unclear the reason for the arrest, but some have linked it to his petition and the leaked video of a supposed meeting involving some members of the investigative committee and counsel for one of the petitioners against the Chief Justice. The NPP's General Secretary, Justin Kodua Frimpong, has released a statement. We'll get into the details of the statement shortly. But let's go to the phone lines now. First of all, we'll speak to William Evans Inkum, who is in our Ashanti Regional Bureau Chief or Northern Sector Bureau Chief. William, good evening. Thank you for joining us. First of all, what's the current situation regarding Chairman Wontumi's attempted arrest and search of his property?
Well, it is calm. I mean, the whole scene lasted for about 2 hours. And just after 12:30, the whole place was deserted. I told you early on that the national security operatives lasted just about 30 minutes. That was when I went there. Even though before my arrival, some had left, pocket of them who were still around, and those operating drones, and then a couple of them, as well as police personnel, were there, but they lasted about 20 to 30 minutes, and they also left. But some supporters of the party, if you like, sympathizers of the embattled regional chairman, hanged there for some time, about 1 hour, 30 minutes, and they also left. So as I speak to you now, Wuntumi's residence is relatively cleared.
And have you, so you indicated that this happened earlier in the day, but have you been able to pick up reasons why the security men were there? We recognize that you spoke to the lawyer, who was also not too clear of why, only to say that he's been invited to Accra. But beyond that, do you know of any other information regarding that?
Well, it's been avalanche of speculation. People have been speculating. Some are linking it to the Akonta mines issue. Some are also linking it to some contract that was given to him, and with allegedly some outrageous amount deposited in his account, allegedly. So these are some of the speculations that some people are making. But like I said early on, we are yet to know why the national operatives were at his residence early today. And we've also gathered from the council that Monday, that is next week Monday, they will make themselves available before the national security.
Right. William Evanzinkum, thank you so much for speaking to us and keeping very close tabs on this development for us. He is our Northern Sector Bureau Chief and updating us on this morning's earlier skirmish that happened at the residence of Chairman Wontumi, who is the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party. Let's go to the second line now. We've been joined by Dr. Ishmael Norman, who is President and CEO of the Institute for Security. Doc, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, sir.
What would your initial thoughts be on the two situations? They have some security implications. First of all, what happened in the Ashanti region and the arrest of the NPP gentleman in the Greater Accra region?
Okay. My brother, from the point of view of crime or criminology, if the security agency, whether it's BNI or if they have a suspicion that you have committed a crime and they want to arrest you, especially in the case of Chairman Wontumi, allegedly they went there with a warrant. I believe that every Ghanaian who is in some kind of influential position should advise his or her supporters not to escalate police and security work. It is their duty to arrest people that are suspected to have committed a crime, whether it's environmental crime or money laundering or whatever it is. Once they come to arrest you, it is not a good thing to mobilize your supporters and to escalate the whole judicial process. It is the beginning of the judicial process when you have been arrested. So call your lawyer that you have been approached by the security agency, whether it's the police or NIB, whatever it is, that they are coming to arrest you, and plead with them to wait for your lawyer to arrive and then go with them. Or plead with them that you report at a certain time because of A, B, C, D reasons that you cannot go with them. And if they choose to, they will then allow you that privilege of not picking you up immediately. But in terms of searching your house, with all due respect, ex-President Donald Trump, when he was in opposition, his Malago house was searched by the CIA, FBI. he didn't have any right to resist them from doing it. And so we've seen these kinds of events happening. Dr. Addison's house was raided and documents taken away. It is the right of the security agencies to encroach upon your right, even though you have a right to privacy. It gets to a point that right collapses when the security agency, the state agency, decides to encroach upon it on a reasonable constitutional right to do so.
Right.
So I don't understand why, whether you're in opposition or not, allow the security agencies to do their work. Otherwise, we are going to create a chaotic environment of security. It's not good for the image of the country. Right. It is not good for criminal justice system, and it's not good for our constitutional development.
Doc, I think, playing the devil's advocate here, I think that the concern some have raised is the approach that the security agencies or the security operatives use. I mean, imagine you are home and then you hear a knock, and then when you open, you have men wielding guns and, asking that they are here to undertake such an operation. Would you say that the approach should also be reviewed or reconsidered, considering the fact that it sort of immediately puts some fear in you, and by that, natural reaction will be to also call for people to come to your aid?
Mr. Asiedu, my understanding is that when in Ghana, when you try to even serve, a bailiff goes to serve a court notice, sometimes you get violent, so they have a right to go with their guns. Actually, they are not pointing the gun at your neck or your head. They have the right to carry the guns with them. But when they come and they knock on your door, it is not an invitation to a wedding dinner. It is an invitation for you to be arrested. And so the only polite way that they can go about it is to show you the beginning of the due process, the warrant. And then you have to go with them, comply. I have seen situations where bailiffs go to serve just court notice that you have been sued and you have the right to file appearance or whatever, and then it becomes violent. So that is why they take the preemptive attempt to protect themselves, that nobody will attack them just because they are going to arrest someone. And from the events that surrounding these efforts today and yesterday, you can see that the security agencies have a right to protect themselves. I am for security agencies, with all due respect, so that is my bias. And the citizens have to comply. No security agency is going to come to your house and come to arrest you when you haven't done anything. So if there is a probable cause that you have committed a crime, they have the right to come after you.
Right. And maybe expanding the conversation, should there be what kind of perception is created out there when, for instance, the security agencies, we are told, failed to undertake the operation or to succeed in the operation today? Does that give, a negative perception of them? That, because this is the second or so time, Reverend Intim Fojo, for instance, the operatives went there, and after a long conversation back and forth, they failed to carry or take away Intim Fojo from his residence. And the same thing in Chairman Wontumi's situation, probably because of the people that mobilized when the operatives arrived. What perception does this paint about the approach and the fact that many will say they failed and it is an attempted failure?
It's not a good image. The image it sends is that our criminal justice system, the processes begin with the arrest. Our criminal justice system is not in good shape. We saw that when NDC was in opposition, when lawyer Safer MP Adenta was being arrested. They wanted to arrest him, and it became a big rigmarole. And we saw that in Reverend Intim Fojo's case, and now we are seeing this. We, the citizens, have to stand up and be counted. That when you do wrong, the police, the security agencies have a right to arrest you, and you have a right to a lawyer. Nobody will deny you that right, and comply with the law so that you are also appear to be a responsible citizen. I actually don't like the fact that we are always resisting arrest. Don't resist the arrest. Don't get arrogant with the security agencies. Don't piss them off because they are there to perform a job. Comply. Call your lawyer to come. And then you go with them and then listen to the charge. They will not take you to the police station or the BNI holding time without letting you know what you have done. If they come with a warrant, follow it. Don't refuse the warrant. That's a court order.
Pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your insights and expert opinions. Dr. Ishmael Norman, thank you.
You are welcome.
And you heard the thoughts of Dr. Ishmael Norman, who is President and CEO of Institute for Security, helping us at least put into better perspective what the situation should be, that if the security operatives come, approach you, tell you they have a warrant and that you need to follow them, just do that. But they are also mindful of the fact that you need to get your lawyer informed about the situation so you can have some representation depending on the legal issues that the security operatives are working with. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. It's been a very busy news day, and we will be happy to hear your thoughts as well on how things have played out. Depending on where you are, do let us know what the situation is, especially those of you listening in the Ashanti region and here in the Greater Accra region. We are shifting our attention to the courts now because a lot has happened, and shortly we'll be joined in studio by Dennis Puaberi Wedam, Esquire, to help us break down the final judgment or the full judgment of the Supreme Court on why they decided to dismiss the injunction application that was applied by Member of Parliament for Old Tafo, Vincent Ekosifua. That is the second major story that we have for you this evening. And later, we'll also tell you how senior high school infractions and the recent uptake of students taking up arms and going onto school campuses with all sorts of weapons. You know, for whatever reason, it has become quite topical. School authorities are concerned about it. We've heard executives of the Ghana National Association of Teachers threatening that if the situation does not come to a halt, they, teachers, may also have to arm themselves when they are going to campuses. But we don't want to get there, so we'll try and get some perspectives to that issue while the bulletin goes on. So let's go to the courts now. And on the 6th of May 2025, the Supreme Court dismissed an injunction sought by Member of Parliament for Old Tafo, Vincent Ekosifua, against commencement of proceedings to hear 3 petitions to remove Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo. The 5-member panel, in a 3-2 majority decision, dismissed the injunction brought by the Old Tafo Member of Parliament. Well, in the full reasoning by both the majority and the dissenting justices, an 81-page reasoning was released, dated Friday, May 23, which is actually today. What exactly is contained in the 81-page document or reasoning by the justices of the Supreme Court? Joining me in studio now is Dennis Puaberi Wedam, Esquire, who has been combing through it to help us make sense of it as laymen. Dennis, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Martin.
What would, so to the ordinary Ghanaian, we know that the Supreme Court dismissed the application that was being sought by Vincent Ekosifua. So what are the nitty-gritties in this particular reasoning?
Well, Martin, let's start off from the top to understand who said what in that decision. So you did indicate that it was a 3-2 majority decision. The 3 saying that no, we cannot uphold the application for that injunction that Vincent was seeking to restrain the committee that was put into, the processes that were ongoing to, seeking the removal of the Chief Justice. This was on the basis that he had made the argument that the Chief Justice ought to have been given copies of the petition first off, her response elicited before any other step could be taken. And that to the extent that that was not done in his view, the court, it was a violation of the Constitution for which the court needed to put the processes on hold. Now, after hearing both sides, Justice Bafo-Boni, who then was the acting Chief Justice, Justice Amadou Tanku, and then Justice Yoni Kolendi, they were those who disagreed with that application by Vincent. The 2 on the other side, who are the dissenting justices, are Justice Professor Mensah Bonsu and then Justice Jehu. Now, let's begin with those who say that no, we cannot uphold that application, or in other words, we cannot grant what your wish is before the court. Now, Amadou Tanko, who has actually written the judgment for those who have disagreed with Vincent, that's to say those on the majority, he begins by first trying to evaluate the evidence on record and to set out what the law is when it comes to the grant of applications. The first question that the court usually asks is there a serious question to be answered? That's the beginning point. So they evaluate all the things that have been put before the court to see if indeed there's a question to be answered before they even begin to go into the other matters. They characterize the entire application to mean that Vincent was basically making the argument that the president had decided to take an action or to begin the consultation with the Council of State towards the removal of the Chief Justice without first giving her the petitions and asking for her response. Now, these are matters that are verifiable because they attach some documents that show, for instance, the beginning of the process where we had an announcement from the presidency indicating that some 3 petitions had been received from members of the public, and that same had been forwarded to the Council of State for the process to begin in accordance with Article 146. Now, again, when they look at the date that Vincent filed the application, which was 2 days after this particular announcement, so the announcement was on the 25th of March, Vincent's application was on the 27th of March. Now, a day after, there was also a letter from the Chief Justice also requesting for copies of the petitions to answer. She also made a similar argument as Vincent that she ought to be given the copies, of course, to be notified and be given the copies to get her response. So when they look at the sequence of the events, it is the view of the majority in the lead judgment by Justice Amadou Tanko that the letter that came from the presidency was not in fact the commencement of the process. It was an announcement of the commencement of the process. And that's when you look at the documents as were presented, and even with the request that the Chief Justice herself made to get copies of the petitions and also give her response, it did indicate that indeed she got those documents which formed part of the things that the President together with the Council of State used to determine the prima facie case. So in making that analysis, they got to a point that even the applicant or plaintiff in this matter, Vincent, actually misconceived what really the essence of that communication was, because his view was that the announcement from the presidency was the beginning of the process. But as the court reasoned, that was not the beginning of the process. And that what he was actually complaining of was actually taken care of because, one, the presidency had actually written to the Chief Justice to tell her that this is what we are doing. We receive petitions, we are forwarding same to the Council of State, intending to do ABCD. All those things were on record.
Okay. Let me just come in here for purposes of clarity.
Yeah.
So is it that before the presidency had written to Madam Gertrude Torkornoo,
yes,
and informed her of the intentions or the decisions they intend to take?
Yes.
Is that part of the process that the justices were talking about? Because the thinking is that Vincent Akrofi says that the decision of the government communication spokesperson to come and announce publicly that some petitions have been given to the president, and on the back of that, the president has forwarded same to the Council of State, was the initiation of the process of investigation. But that's not what the justices are saying. Is that so?
So the justices are saying, you contend that the process did not follow a certain sequence, and that by announcing that the petitions had been received and forwarded to the Council of State, it meant that the consultation process had already begun.
Okay.
Part of which included the determination of a prima facie case. And on that score, he argued that it was unconstitutional.
Okay.
However, the records show that the letter that was issued from the presidency was just a letter announcing that these petitions had been received and that same had been forwarded to the Council of State. There was also another letter on record to the Chief Justice indicating that we have received petitions. We have forwarded same to the Council of State. We are giving you an opportunity to respond to this. That aside, the Chief Justice herself wrote a letter requesting for the petitions, which she was given. Remember, she asked for 7 days, the presidency gave, or the president gave 10 days. They are saying that all those things happened before the determination of the prima facie case.
Okay.
And that to that extent, even right from the word go, Vincent may have misconceived the whole sequence of the event.
Okay.
To have thought that the beginning of the process started off without even hearing from the Chief Justice.
Okay.
So since that was set aside, if you followed keenly, then you would have not set aside per se, but since that was
established by the judges
to be flawed, then it meant that in their view, there was not even a serious question to be tried.
Okay.
However, they will still go on to consider other things, to see that the other thing that they will consider is what harm will be caused, so much so that that harm cannot be repaired if we are allowing the process to continue till the final determination of the case.
Okay.
They say that on the record, counsel for Vincent did not say much on that. In fact, he had said that that question only arises when it has to do with human rights matters. But because this was a constitutional matter, in his view, that does not arise. The court actually explained that to the extent that he did not provide an answer for that, it means that that threshold too was not satisfied. So they had to go ahead to do some other analysis.
Okay. So what does this leave us? And we know that the committee is in place. They are also, undertaking their own investigations and processes. What does this mean for the committee and for, the general public who are following this issue? So
in essence, this matter has long been settled. It's long been settled because the purpose for which Vincent went to court has not been materialized. This application has been dismissed, except to say that there is still the substantive suit which stands, for which the court will now have to do an interpretation of the provision specified. So when you read the judgment carefully, the court is careful not to go into the arena of the substantive suit which talks about the interpretation, but just to make a case for why they do not think at this point it is prudent for the court to have halted the processes altogether.
Okay.
So the process is still ongoing, but remember, even subsequent to this, there have been other attempts to still injunct the process. And that is a matter that the court has still stood firmly, except that in that particular instance, with a differently constituted panel, the decision was 4-1 majority. But it's also instructive to put on record that in Justice Yoni Kolendi's concurring opinion, even though it is not straight to the matter, there was an issue that Vincent was making. You recall that when he filed the petition, at the time the prima facie case has not been determined yet. But by the time they heard the application itself, that was because the court had to adjourn twice. There was a determination of a prima facie case, a committee had been established, and then the Chief Justice has actually been suspended. So he makes the argument that even though he had filed an injunction application and served on the Attorney General, they still went ahead to do all those things, and that was in disregard of the court. He was coming on the back of a popular notion in the minds of many lawyers. It's actually a controversy as to the question of whether when an injunction application is served on somebody, it operates as an automatic stay. Justice Yoni Kolendi took his time to analyze that principle and to say that he wants to put things to bed. He did indicate that they cannot allow that principle to operate, so that if just by merely serving an injunction application on a constitutional body or a government agency, then it has to operate as a stay. Because if we were to allow that to happen, people can just go to court and serve frivolous injunctions. That will bring government business to a standstill. So he makes exceptions for the constitutional bodies and then some government organizations. And he says that when it comes to matters like that, it has to be dealt with on case-by-case basis.
Okay.
In law, we say this is an obiter. It means that it is not the matter in dispute. However, it is incidental. So having said this, it could serve as a guide moving forward as to whether the service of injunction applications on persons operate as an automatic stay or not. Martin, just to wrap up, the dissenting opinion, which was written by Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, she takes a different view altogether to say that, in her view, the sequence was not followed properly. And to even
which is largely more or less in agreement with Vincent Isikfua.
To say that because the petition announcement was made, even it got into the media, and that we did some analysis, part of which were coming hard at the judiciary, and that in all of that, it did not present a clear picture for anybody who was performing the function of having to assess the thing to come to a conclusion of a prima facie case to have a proper or a fair mind to do so. And in her view, that even the announcement was made way before the Chief Justice got the petitions. She also makes the case, referring to the arguments that were made by the Attorney General, that when the Attorney General was asked the question of the sequence, he seemed to suggest that a sequence does not matter as long as you are giving the petitions. But she is of the view that no, this is a quasi-judicial matter, and for which reason the sequence is very important, especially when she had to respond to something, and that it does not show respect to the judiciary, especially a member of that standing, to only get to hear about something of that sort in the media without the benefit of having copies of it to respond to it. It was on that basis that she and Justice Jewu departed from the majority. So in essence, that's like the crux of the whole matter and the reasoning of the justices of the Supreme Court as regards this injunction application. What still outstands is the substantive matter, which they haven't indicated when, but clearly they indicate that it's still a matter that they will look at.
Right, Dennis, thank you so much for walking us, giving us some law lecture 101s, trying to break down the documents or the reasoning of the Supreme Court, following Vincent Isikfua's attempt to ask the Supreme Court to halt the process of the suspension of the Chief Justice right from the get-go. Let's get some further legal analysis on this. Christian Hesimam is a private legal practitioner. He's also joined us for quick thoughts on this. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Thanks for having me to your listeners.
Right. Let's pick off from the two judges who dissented, and for instance, they are of the opinion that the immediate fact of the government communication spokesperson coming to speak to the public or tell the public that some petitions have been received by the president, and on the back of that, the Council of State has been notified to start taking action, that in itself, contravenes the laid down procedure or the processes. Is that a fair argument to make, you believe?
Indeed. I mean, a close look at Article 146 indicates that when such situations happen, received by the president, it is transmitted to the Council of State, and in tangent, a prima facie is determined, even though the word prima facie is not captured therein, but by filling in the gap, Justice Dateba filled in the gap when he had the opportunity in the Chum versus Attorney General case. Indeed, espousing further in the Chum versus Attorney General case, the learned justice further went on to say that petitions cannot be disclosed. In terms of the content, the disclosures cannot be done. We remember when Bright Equity initiated similar matter against the then Chief Justice. That's when the learned justice had the opportunity to eruditely opine on these matters and made a lot of recommendations to amend Article 146 or furthermore, the Rules Committee put in procedures to create a certainty as far as that area of procedure is concerned. Now, having gleaned that enormous and erudite judgment, it never touched on the fact that when the petition is brought or is filed, it cannot be made mention that a petition or petitions have been made. But what it indicates is that the content of the petition need not be disclosed. And by constitutional interpretation, that is basically that happened. The contents of the petition had never been. And if you look at what has happened so far, that's it. So I beg to differ a little as far as considering Justice Dateme's position in that particular Supreme Court decision is concerned, just opposing it to the facts as we have it. Yes, I mean, the Supreme Court as a body, by stare decisis, can always depart from a position, but that position must be by a majority reasoning, and it doesn't appear as that. So it still remains that, yes, the content of the petition must not be made known to the public. It must be concealed. But as to who has filed the petition against the Chief Justice can copiously be made known.
Right. And still on the back of that, I mean, the other side of the argument that by virtue of simply announcing to the public that the president has received petitions against the Chief Justice, that in itself allowed people, including lawyers and, the general public, to share their thoughts and opinions, which could influence whichever final outcome may be arrived at. So does that hold water, saying that although the content of the petition has not been made public, the mere mention of the fact that a petition has been brought against person A or person B in itself could, influence those that may have to take the ultimate decision after investigations, are carried out?
Again, the use of the word could means that it is subjective and it is not from the objective point. So that once it is could, it is not factual and it is not conclusive. So it gives room in law for one to conjecture. And that is basically having read nuggets of the decision that covers this area suggests to me, and it will not surprise me that most legal scholars would hold that, because once you use the word could and you keep going in that area, it means it's subjective. The fact that a lot of pundits have mentioned things out there does not necessarily mean that the mind of persons who are in charge could be compromised. It could be, it could not be. But as to what the truth thinking is, which went through and which had been employed to arrive at this particular conclusion, should be one of facts and not one of conjecture. So again, with that one too, I beg to differ.
We are grateful for your thoughts and time this evening, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you heard the thoughts of, fine private legal practitioner Christian Hesimam, who has been also, trying to give us some education regarding the final judgment from the 3-2 decision of the justices of the Supreme Court, when they dismissed the application by Vincent Akosifua, on the back of the fact that he wanted the entire process initiated by the president to remove the Chief Justice or to ask for an investigation to be undertaken into the Chief Justice or accusations or the petition against the Chief Justice. Vincent wanted all of that halted because he thought that it had, the processes had been altered by how the procedure or the sequence of events played out. from the look of things, the judges by a 3-2 majority decision dismissed it, thinking otherwise. So if you want details of the reasoning, the 81-page reasoning, you can find that on our website, 3news.com. We're staying on the issues of the Chief Justice because on the 22nd of April, which was Tuesday, Ghanaians were informed of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo's suspension following numerous hints leading members of the NDC on social media. Spokesperson to the President, Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwakye-Fosu, in a statement announced that a prima facie had been established in respect of 3 petitions calling for the removal of the Chief Justice, and a subsequent committee had been set up to look into the allegations. Lord Eduasare assesses changes that have occurred at the judiciary since the directive.
Hours after the suspension of Gertrude Torkornoo as Chief Justice, Justice Paul Bafo-Boni, a Justice of the Supreme Court, was appointed acting Chief Justice in accordance with Article 1446 of the 1992 Constitution, which mandates that the most senior Justice of the Supreme Court shall act in the role of Chief Justice when the position is vacant or when the incumbent is unable to perform their duties. As his first move as acting Chief Justice, Paul Bafo-Boni instructed that all newly filed cases be forwarded to him for assignment and scheduling. A circular signed by the Deputy Judicial Secretary indicated that the acting Chief Justice would assign courts and empanel judges for all the newly filed cases and applications. The directive has since received backlash from the Ghana Bar Association, with the latter issuing a statement calling for the revocation of the order. The acting CJ also directed Dr. Serakus Baninye Bapuro, the Deputy Judicial Secretary, to assume the position of the Interim Judicial Secretary subject to the eventual decision by the Judicial Council. The memo from Justice Bafo-Boni followed the resignation of Justice Seka Pamela Karanting from the role. Hearing of the injunctions against the suspension of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo was chaired by the acting Chief Justice Paul Bafo-Boni. On May 6, the Supreme Court resumed hearing the injunction application seeking to halt the suspension of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo. Justice Bafo-Boni empaneled new judges, with him presiding over the matter. A former Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, who was the lawyer for the plaintiff, objected and asked the acting CJ to recuse himself, citing that he stood to gain from the result. The objection was eventually overruled and dismissed. The acting Chief Justice has since empaneled himself in subsequent constitutional matters heard at the Apex Court. Administratively, some judicial service staff have also been reassigned to other departments.
And you hear that report put together by Lord Eduasare, our court correspondent. This is still 3FM 92.7. You're listening to Hot Edition live from our studio here at Adisawe in Accra. Do let your messages come in and let us hear your thoughts on the many stories that we've been treating so far. The big one we started the bulletin with has to do with the NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman, Antwi Boasiako, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi. Earlier today, some security operatives went to his residence in an attempt to search the place and had a court warrant to search his house. Also, we are told that they were expected to pick him up. According to his lawyer, information they got from the operatives indicate that they were expecting to pick up Chairman Wontumi and bring him to Accra. But the lawyer says that they were able to reason out with the security operatives and they are expecting Chairman Wontumi to come to Accra on his own next week. So it's a very fluid story that we are keeping close tabs on for you. And in a related development, another NPP individual who, we're told in the last few days decided to petition the courts for the committee set up by the president to be dismissed, and also released or circulated a video alleging that judges and one of the lawyers of the petition who had petitioned the president had been meeting, and that in itself compromised the entire process. Well, he was earlier today picked up in Accra. He's in the person of Kwame Adom Apia. He is lawyer for Wontumi. Now, he says that they would bring Chairman Wontumi themselves to Accra, but the other gentleman in question who was earlier today picked up is also called Alfred Kumi, and that's the information we have. So we'll let you know subsequently and how the whole of this plays out in the coming days. But if you go to our Facebook page, that's where we are streaming, and you can also get to see the video of how things played out at Chairman Wuntumi's residence. And when the security operatives got there, he quickly, Chairman Wuntumi that is, quickly called party supporters in the region to come to his residence. And when they went there, they surrounded the place. There was no fight or skirmish, but there was some kind of heckle, where later on we were told that the situation normalized. The security operatives left without searching and without picking up Chairman Wuntumi. And in the video, you hear some of the supporters of Chairman Wuntumi saying that this was unlawful, it wasn't the right way to go when you wanted to pick someone up. But that position has been dismissed by security analyst himself, who, says that so far as a warrant has been released by the court for the search of your house or for you to be picked up, you just need to follow due process, call your lawyer and let them know that this is the situation. The era of people asking for their supporters to mass up and prevent security operatives from undertaking their legal duty should not be countenanced. So it's on the back of that he says we need to, if we want to be a country of the rule of law, we should allow the law to work. So your thoughts are also very welcome. Go to our Facebook page, 3FM Facebook page, and you'll get to follow the conversation and make your thoughts known as well. This is still 3FM, 92.7 is the dial. If you're listening to us, do send us your messages. We'll be happy to share it with the rest of the world. We'll be doing business and sports in a jiffy, but before that, let's bring you some other stories now. And this has to do with education, because there appears to be some tension and a rise in violent clashes in senior high schools, and this has heightened public concern. Government is also blaming the increasing indiscipline in schools on the poor implementation of the free senior high school by the previous government. The government says it is rolling out new measures to curb the canker, and the new measures include the fact that they want to give a new mandate for management of schools to search all students. Also, parent-teacher associations, that's the PTAs, have been restored to what they used to be before 2017, when it was totally scrapped by the previous administration, where now parents and teachers can together agree on the direction of the awards on campus, which would include issues of discipline and how to approach situations when they arise. Also, the current government is proposing, the government has directed the Director General of the Ghana Education Service to work with the Ghana Education Service Council to initiate further immediate interventions. And this is quite concerning, because some teacher unions are threatening that the fact that students can come to campus and either attack a teacher or even harm a teacher in itself has become one too many. Recently, we heard that a student had gone to campus with a gun and unfortunately fired the gun, which hurt a number of students. So all of these issues have culminated into some decisions that the teachers want to take, which include the fact that the teachers say now when they're also going to school, they may arm themselves, so that in case there is an attack, they can defend themselves. But I'm not sure anybody would want to get to that position. So it is incumbent on all of us to try and get to the bottom of this particular issue and resolve it amicably. Let's take you through some of the major incidents that have been recorded, in the last few months. Because you would recall that Kimbu Secondary Technical and Accra Technical Center in the Greater Accra region, these two institutions had a severe clash where a number of students were badly injured, and it even affected the community where this clash happened. Also, the Kumasi Technical Institute, KTI, and the Kumasi Anglican Senior High School in the Ashanti region also had some confrontation, which was also very detrimental. A number of students were injured in that regard. The Salaga Senior High School in the Savannah region, over the school's entertainment event, there was a free-for-all fight that left one student with multiple stab wounds. And that is also very concerning, that a simple entertainment program in a secondary school or a senior high school should lead to someone getting multiple stab wounds. Why should that be? So it's one of the reasons the teachers are asking for a holistic approach in dealing with the issue. Again, the Islamic Senior High School in the Ashanti region had some issues which resulted in the damage to a private property or a number of private properties. So students get agitated, they are angry, and on the back of that, properties get destroyed. And that's not the only ones. Recently, some students and residents clashed at Sokode Senior High School in the Volta region, leading to the total shutdown of the school. And that in itself got the chiefs and people of the community asking for the school authorities to meet with them so they can find some reasonable solution to resolving the impasse. And in the last 2 months alone, the country has witnessed gun-wielding incidents by students, including the Adventist Senior High School incident, Salaga Senior High School incident, and Osei Senior High School incident, which also happened in the Ashanti region. So it is quite concerning how senior high schools are becoming places of disturbance instead of places of education. Let's listen to Dr. Clement Apak, who is the Deputy Minister of Education. He's been sharing his thoughts on these developments and the new approach being proposed by government.
And to indicate that the rampant and worrying phenomena of indiscipline in our secondary schools is a source of concern to government, the ministry, the minister, and of course to Ghanaians. We have been recording reports of students exhibiting all manner of unacceptable behavior and conduct. Teacher unions have been passionately calling for some immediate action with regards to these kinds of unacceptable conducts, some including violent behavior between students and host communities, and sometimes targeted at the teachers and even the headmasters. Whilst it is the truth to state that this is a fallout of the poor implementation of the free senior high school program by the previous government, since we took over the reins of governance, we have initiated some interventions towards immediately addressing these worrisome phenomena, even as we look at a more holistic review of the policies implementation as recommended by Ghanaians.
And that is Dr. Clement Apak, who is Deputy Minister of Education. Meanwhile, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, is taking a strong stance against what is described as the worrying silence of the Ghana Education Service and regional directors over rising attacks on teachers. Speaking to our Labour correspondent, Thomas Musa Tanko urged teachers who feel unsafe or threatened by students to immediately leave the workplace for their own protection. So we'll bring you subsequent thoughts on that particular story. This is still 3FM 92.7. Time now for business. And Bismarck Ewusa joins us for that. Stay with us.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, Bank of Ghana maintains policy rate at 28% for second straight time, citing need to sustain disinflation gains. I am Bismarck Ewusa. This story and others lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the detail. The Bank of Ghana has for the second consecutive time held its key lending rate at 28%, signaling a firm stance in the fight against inflation. The policy rate was last reduced in September 2024 when it was lowered from 29% to 27%. At the 124th Monetary Policy Committee meeting, Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama said the current inflation levels remain above target, requiring the continuation of tight monetary policy to sustain the disinflation process.
Forecast points to continued easing of inflationary pressures on the back of tight monetary policy stance, exchange rate stability, and fiscal consolidation. Inflation is expected to ease faster towards the medium-term target in the first quarter of next year, that is 2026, as opposed to the second quarter as earlier envisaged, and this is barring unanticipated shocks. Despite these positive developments, the committee observed that the current level of inflation remains high relative to the medium-term target and will require maintaining the tight stance to reinforce the disinflation process.
Meanwhile, Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama says the central bank is closely monitoring the exchange rate and inflation trends to ensure currency volatilities remain within acceptable bounds. He notes that the focus is on the real effective exchange rate, which it considers crucial for maintaining competitiveness and economic stability. It assures the public that at current levels, there is no cause for alarm, but the Monetary Policy Committee stands ready to act should conditions change.
Volatilities are not excessive. We are observing trends in the nominal movements of the cedi. Remember, it goes hand in hand with the rate of inflation. And so I made mention of the word real exchange rate or real effective exchange rate. That is what is important in this whole game. That is where our focus is. The committee, looked into the movements in the real effective exchange rate, and as of now, where we are now, we don't think that there is a persistent real appreciation that will be causing us problems in terms of competitiveness. And so, rest assured, where we are now, we are observing things. However, we haven't gotten to that stage. When we get to that stage, the committee will take the appropriate decision.
You heard Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama. Moving on, the Energy Commission has announced that Ghana's net metering program is slated to commence by the end of the third quarter of 2025. This initiative aims to encourage electricity consumers to supplement their energy needs with renewable sources, such as solar power, by allowing them to generate electricity and feed it back into the national grid. Expected to promote the adoption of renewable energy, the net metering billing mechanism allows consumers with grid-connected renewable energy systems to be credited for the excess electricity they supply to the grid, which can be offset against their electricity bills. Acting Director of Renewable Energy at the Energy Commission, Frederick Kenapia, made this known at the AGI's Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency B2B Expo in Accra.
We've done this enough sensitization to the key partners, so ECG, NEDCO, and then we have the association, the Renewable Energy Associations in Ghana. We've met the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, we've met the commercial banks and so on. Well, basically, what it means is that by the end of third quarter, we should start the program because the meters are currently being manufactured by the supplier, and we expect that by September it should be in the country. We have created a web application platform where all applications will go through. So what it means is that on your phone, on the comfort of your home, you can just apply to benefit from that facility. That is getting a subsidy and getting a free meter to then you can just engage any of the installers here who will be pre-qualified to get a solar system, and then you can benefit from it.
that was Acting Director of Renewable Energy at the Energy Commission, Frederick Kenapia, ending the business news on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck. Also, for more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Thanks for your company. Bill Ishan is here for the sport. Please stay.
Ghana, it's a new year and Bill's Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bill's offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit, and no SUSI savings required. Wherever you are, whatever you need, Bill's makes it happen. Call Bill's Microcredit today. Call 0596 920 833 or 0302 200 390 and get started. Bill's is licensed and regulated by the Bank of Ghana. Bill's, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. Starting from the Ghana Premier League, where the latest is Halt have managed to defeat Accra Lions by 3-1 earlier today. And that means that Halt remain fifth on the Ghana Premier League table with 52 points from 32 matches this season. But still on the competition, Kotoko, who are involved in a must-win game against title chase, are involved in the must-win game against title-chasing Gold Stars on Sunday. Now, the Porcupine Warriors are 2 points and 2 places behind the second-placed Gold Stars. Then ahead of the tie, Karim Zito, who is the head coach of the side, admits it would be a very, very difficult game.
Approach will be very serious, but we should admit it. We are going to meet one of the best one of the best team in the league today on Sunday. They are very good and they have more advantage by playing at home. So we double our tax seriously in meeting them. So we are preparing ourselves that this is a team that is questioning trying to win the league. So definitely they will never sit down for anybody to stop them from winning the league. And we are also want to be competitive in the quest for the league. So definitely it will be very tough for both of us.
It will indeed be very, very tough. That was Abdul Karim Zito, the head coach of Ashanti Kotoko. Now, another club who are in the title race is Pando Hearts of Lions. Now, they are eyeing a first ever league title and travel to play Young Apostles on Sunday. Now, Lions are currently 3 points behind league leaders Nations FC. And the owner of the side, Dr. Randy Abe, says he will be excited if they manage to win the Ghana Premier League.
I would want to win. I would want to win the league for the first time. And also play in Africa. But for all the teams that are in the race, we have the most difficult because prior to the last game, for the 4 games that we had, 3 were away games and only 1 game at home. We went away and we drew, which meant that we dropped 2 points. And so I'm pushing the boys. I mean, I'm proud of what they have achieved so far. And if we win, it will be a major boost. But even if we do not, I think that they've done very well. For a team that almost got relegated last season, to be contenders for the season, I think is quite a heavy or huge improvement.
It is indeed a heavy improvement. That was Randy Abede, the owner of Pando Hearts of Lions. Now, former general manager of Nsuacheman, Eric Alagidede, has weighed in on the title race as well. He believes it will go down to the wire.
When I look at the fixtures of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, they are obviously playing the penultimate game against Bibiani Gold Stars this weekend. Whoever wins that game is in pole position to win the league, because if Kotoko wins, they have 1 game at home, and then the last game, 1 game at home, which will be against Midiama, and then the last game in Tema against Vision FC. Should they win the game at Bibiani, I see them winning the next 2 games, which obviously means they could be crowned champions. On the other hand, an outside contender like Heart of Lions. Heart of Lions are like outsiders. A lot of people are not really giving them that chance, but they have a very crucial game against Young Apostles. A win in that game could obviously put them in the title race, which will mean Young Apostles are actually going to go down. So it's a very dicey game, but should they fail to pick the maximum points in Wenchi, then of course they can't be in the title race.
Should be very, very interesting. This is how the title race stands as of now in the Ghana Premier League. Nations FC are currently first with 57 points. BBN Gold Star second with 56 points. Heart of Lions third with 54. And Asante Kotoko fourth with 54. So 4 teams are currently locked in a battle for that prestigious Ghana Premier League title. Now let's talk a bit about the Black Stars, because they will be in action against Nigeria on May 28th in the Unity Cup tournament. Ahead of the competition, Nigeria coach Eric Shell has named the squad. However, the major concern among Nigerian fans has been the omission of Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman. Sports journalist Ayodeji Adeberu has shared his thoughts on this situation.
I don't think for Eric Chell, I don't think his aim is to win the Unity Cup. Winning will be good, but I think he's trying to test new systems, new players, and try to build a formidable squad towards AFCON. Even in the absence of Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman, the squad is still strong enough, is good enough. But if you look back, Chell's first game in charge of the Super Eagles was a World Cup qualifier, a must-win qualifier against Rwanda, which he won. The next game, a few days later against Zimbabwe, the game ended 1-1. Nigeria conceded a late goal. So for him, this is now a chance. This is 2 games in London, 1 game in Russia a week later. This is a chance for him to see new players, test new systems and all of that. You recall that most of our qualifying period, Victor Osimhen wasn't available to us and we struggled. I personally, I term the style of play, the style of football we play as Osimhen, and inshallah, we just lump it forward to him and hope that he does something. When he's on the field, it works. What happens when he's not available? So maybe this is a good opportunity for Eric Chell to find out, can I play without Victor Osimhen?
That was Nigerian journalist Ayodeji Adebenru speaking on Nigeria's squad for the Unity Cup. Now, while Nigeria have already named their squad, Ghana are yet to release theirs, facing challenges with player availability due to the tournament's timing. Now, let's hear from the chairman of the Black Stars Management Committee, Randy Abbey, on the difficulties of assembling a squad for this year's Unity Cup.
I had a team with the management committee and has given us his program. I think that team will assemble in London on the 25th, and they would have 3 training sessions before our first game on the 28th against Nigeria. There are quite a number of players who are injured. I'm sure that you follow the news, so you know they are injured. There are a few who are also engaged in qualifying games for Europe, and so their clubs will not release them. Mind you that this period is outside the FIFA free period. And so for those whose leagues will still be in session and they are still in contention, they might not be available, plus the injured players. But I think that the coach is going to present quite a good crop of players who would go out there. This is part of our preparations towards the September and October World Cup qualifying games. And so we would wait to see the players that will finally be available, and we'll see how we would fare in the 2 games that will be played on the 28th and the 31st, and see how that impacts on our preparation towards the World Cup qualifiers. I think that the coach has, what I saw, he has a list of players. So you have foreign-based players, you have some locally based players, some are in the first squad, there are some that are on standby just in case somebody gets injured or somebody is unable to make it. So I think that we would have quite a good team. The only thing is that there are some of the players that we know and are used to who will not be there. But of course, it's also an opportunity for others to demonstrate that they have what it takes to be in the team.
That was Randy Abbey, the chairman of the Black Stars Committee. Now let's head to Europe now, because the race for the top 5 finish in the Premier League is intensifying. Manchester City will play Fulham, while Aston Villa will travel to Old Trafford to take on Manchester United. And Chelsea are also up against Nottingham Forest as both teams look to book a spot in next season's Champions League. Ahead of that game, Enzo Maresca, the head coach of Chelsea, is full of confidence as his side battles for those important 3 points.
We are quite lucky in this aspect, is because if we win, we do our job. We don't need to pay attention what the other results. For sure, if we are not winning, probably we need to pay attention. But we have the privilege that we depends on us.
That was Enzo Maresca speaking. Now, the Serie A title race comes down to the final day, with Napoli leading the table of 79 points, just 1 point ahead of second-placed Inter Milan, who have 78 points. Both teams face crucial fixtures simultaneously that will determine who lifts the Scudetto later this evening. Now, our acting head of sports, Oreko Ampofo, gives a comprehensive breakdown and all the permutations at stake.
Well, I think for Napoli, they can thank their stars, and most importantly, they can thank Pedro. Because if they do win this area, they need to reserve one medal for Pedro. He saved them their blushes, because I think they've been poor in the last 2 games against Genoa and Parma, and they allowed Inter back into a title race, which shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been this close with one more game to go. But the only reason why they're still here is that Pedro came off the bench and ensured that Inter don't win last week. And so they still have the initiative. But the big question now is that can they see it through? Because everyone thought they should be able to beat Genoa and Parma, but they couldn't do that. The only good thing for them is that Cagliari, with their win last time out against Venezia, means that they would not be relegated. And so they are also in celebratory mood. They're still hungover after their celebrations and know that they will be safe in Serie A for another season. So they might not push as much as they would have if their place was not assured. So that gives Napoli a good chance to win at home, because they're facing a side that's not too motivated. And then on the other hand, what is also placed into their hand is that you have Inter Milan facing one of the most informed teams in Europe. Now, it's difficult to believe that Como are one of the best teams in Europe at the moment, but they're unbeaten in 8 matches. And there's a reason why clubs like Bayer Leverkusen are after their head coach, Fabregas. I think they're playing some really amazing football. They've won, I think, their last 5 in a row or 6 in a row or something like that. And they've been very, very impressive. They play with no fear. They want the ball. They want to attack. And so going away to such a team for Inter can be very, very tricky. And remember, Inter also have a Champions League match next week. And so you do not want to overexert yourself and get injuries before the big one. And so I think everything just plays into the hands of Napoli, especially because they also have that 1 point buffer as well. So I think that they're favourites heading into this one. And if they don't win, they'll definitely just have themselves to blame.
That was our acting head of sports, Oreko Ampofo, giving a breakdown of what to expect in the Serie A title race. Now, Ghana's national 100-meter record holder Benjamin Azamati secured qualification for the 2025 World Athletics Championships in Tokyo after posting a time of 9.98 seconds at the Magnap Sprint Series. Now, the performance marks a season best for the sprinter and places him in a tie for 17th on the official men's 100-meter qualification list for the global event. It is Azamati's 4th career sub-10th performance under legal wind conditions. Now here is sprint coach Elom Amenepo speaking on Azamati's recent performance.
He has put in a lot of work this season. When you look at his trajectory when the outdoor season starts, he keeps improving on race after race, and running down time yesterday, give him some kind of relief because he booked a qualification which is giving him more room to prepare ahead of the championship that is in September. Every athlete wants to have that early qualification. I don't know if there's going to be a national championship because I'm anticipating a lot of Ghanaian athletes might drop sub-10 this season. When that happens, it's going to call for national championship. That would be a thing for the federation and then the government to decide, because if more than 3 athletes run the sub-10, and you can't just say they are all qualified, they are all entitled to be there. So the onus rests upon the federation to decide who is selected, and then the coach decide who ran.
That was Coach Elom and Menepo reacting to Azamati's qualification to the World Athletics Championships. Bringing an end to sports here on 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. We'll see you same time on Monday, but until then, have a great weekend.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM. Your finest tunes in sync with a soothing voice. 3 Lounge with AJ.
Are you tired of the same old routine? Need a break from the stress and chaos of everyday life? Well, step into the 3 Lounge, your world of absolute relaxation and great music with yours truly, AJ Akrofi Ocansey. Welcome to the best mid-morning show in the capital and beyond. This is 3 Lounge, yours truly, your radio princess, AJ Akrofi Ocansey.
Love it. I love it. It's great.
Kickstart your week with Monday motivation, shake off the Tuesday blues, and get ready for midweek mania. Take a trip down memory lane on Throwback Thursday and wrap up the week with Funky Friday with myself and Helen Apia Ampufo. Plus, enjoy exciting celebrity interviews, insightful conversation, engaging discussions on topics that matter, and there's a boatload of fun and easy activations that reward and appreciate you, our loyal listener.
If you are listening, we're manifesting money into your pocket this morning.
Don't miss out on the excitement. Tune in to 3 Lounge every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. with AJ Akrofi Ocansey only on 3FM 92.7.
It's my number one.
92.7 3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Greetings in the name of the Rastafari.
It has always been a journey of Pan-Africanism and consciousness. It is your regular taxi driver with the urban blend on 3FM 92.7 in living stereo every day, Monday to Friday from 12:30 p.m. till 3 p.m. This is the show everybody listens to, so your business will certainly do well here. My name, Black Rasta. I am the rootical, hairtical, Don Gargan, Mua Fire, come forward.
Atinga ya chika fankare, Azure ya chika fankare, Abama ta chika fankare.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
2.7 3FM.
Still listening to 3FM 92.7, and like we indicated earlier, the New Patriotic Party released a statement on the back of the recent happenings, specifically to its chairman in the Ashanti region, Chairman Wontumi, and then also the arrest of one NPP guy, Alfred Kumi, popularly known as Adenta Kumi. So let's take you through the specifics of the statement signed by the General Secretary of the NPP, and it says the New Patriotic Party condemns in the strongest terms the growing pattern of politically motivated intimidation and harassment of its members by the NDC government through the misuse of state security institutions. These actions represent a direct assault on Ghana's democracy and the rule of law and must cease forthwith. And they go on to give specifics that around 7 a.m. today, the 23rd of May 2025, Alfred Akrofi Kumi, member of the NPP, widely known as Adenta Kumi, was forcibly arrested at his residence by heavily armed men believed to be operatives of the National Intelligence Bureau. Startlingly, 6 of the officers wore masks and wielded AK-47 rifles in a brazen display of intimidation. This is clearly linked to Mr. Kumi's recent petition to His Excellency John Mahama requesting the immediate dissolution of the committee established to review petitions for the removal of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo. Rather than address the concerns raised in the petition through due process, the response of the state has been to silence the whistleblower through intimidation and force. This is a clear affront to democratic accountability and an ominous attempt to obstruct justice. And then they go to Kumasi, where they say, in a related and equally disturbing development, armed men this morning stormed the residence of Bernard Antwi Boasiako, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi, the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP. This is in relation to a 19th May 2025 CID invitation to Chairman Wontumi to assist in an investigation. Chairman Wontumi duly responded by assuring that he was not going to be available on the 21st as demanded by the CID because of medical reasons, and that he will be available on Monday, 26th May 2025. It is thus completely astonishing for armed men to storm his residence when these correspondence have gone on. This is nothing short of political harassment, and the statement concludes by saying, these developments represent a calculated pattern of abuse of state power designed to weaken opposition voices and erode the democratic fabric of our nation. Such actions do not only violate the fundamental rights of Ghanaian citizens, but also endanger the principles of transparency, justice, and equal protection under the law. The NPP calls on all Ghanaians and defenders of democracy to condemn these acts of political persecution being perpetrated by the NDC government. Signed, Justin Kodua Frimpong, General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Right, so some of you have already started sending in messages. Some are asking that where was the NPP and the General Secretary, Justin Kodua Frimpong, when armed men beat Sam George at the Ayawaso West Worgon constituency? Like we also spoke earlier to a security analyst and a governance consultant, he was of the opinion that when security operatives have a warrant, you should just reason with them that they allow you to call your lawyer and follow due process rather than refusing either a search or an arrest by these operatives. And he believes that if we do that, we rather are undermining the democratic credentials of the country that we all hope to stand by. And on the back of that, we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you very much for following our conversation also on Facebook. I am Martin Asiedudati. You've been listening to 3FM 92.7. Have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of the Friday. Enjoy your weekend as well. Bye for now.